a social and historical portrait, is something different for us. A personal exploration and excavation of the history of the single Shadyside street where both our speakers grew up. Robbie Alley, now a retired physician, researched the history of Pierce Street in the early 2000s when he applied for a Pittsburgh History and Landmarks Foundation plaque. Now, in the age of Ancestry.com and newspapers.com, he has been able to broaden and deepen that early research to create a nuanced portrait of how the street evolved over the decades. Tonight, Robbie Alley and David Cummings, an interpreter for the deaf, present what they have discovered. We are so pleased to have them with us. Please give Robbie and David a warm welcome.
Thank you. I just want to say first that in the table in the back, my sister, Sheila Alley, has a book, an incredible book that she compiled and edited that she just put out earlier this year, The Avant-Garde History of Art in Pittsburgh over the last 60 years. Take a look at that. Some of the paintings in this presentation, which are done by my other sister, Abira Ali, are in that book, and a lot of other stuff. It's all about Pittsburgh. Take a look. In addition, most of the people from from Pierce Street went to Liberty School. And since I retired, I've been volunteering at Liberty School. And two of my star students, who I also, besides teaching math, I also taught them comic books. So they have a comic book business they've started, and they're selling their comic books in the back table there. And please take a look, if nothing else, just to talk to these kids. They are amazing. They're twins, they're boys, and they're going places. Okay.
Is the screen capture working? There's titles on the screen?
Yeah.
Because I don't know if their audio's working.
Another thing, on the table over there are maps, and everyone should have one.
Can you hear me better now?
It's going to be a test.
I think I need to speak close to the microphone because my live stream people are telling me to speak up. Okay. Oh, Gina, by the way, is in charge. Gina says it's perfect now, so we're good.
Tuck into this one. Try this one.
I don't want to.
But what am
I'm
I going to
scared. Just deal with it. No, okay. All right, so
Oh, yeah.
I said that, and what was the other thing? Oh, the subtitle. I don't know how to do that.
Don't worry about it. If the audio's working, don't worry about
Let's do it.
it.
The audio's working.
Oh, yeah. Here.
All right, let's,
We starting?
yeah.
Okay, let's start. Excuse me. Okay, now we're going to talk about the history of Pierce Street. Welcome to Pierce Street. I put this sign up at the end of Pierce Street when I moved back here in about 91. I don't know.
It's a nice picture.
Yeah. I still have it in my basement.
Yeah,
And
that's good.
this is our presentation today. We've been working on this
For a while.
for a long time. We've been working,
Yeah.
quite a lot on it. Okay, I have to be careful what I say. This is a church. Okay, so in 1996, a documentary short film was made about Pierce Street and then released in 96. Most of the footage is more like from 91, 92. And a lot of the footage I took, actually, but these guys, Michael Lichtenberger and Carrie Ann Strelecki, produced this nice little video of Pierce Street. I'm just going to show you the intro, which is about a minute and a half or something.
Yeah,
So here we go.
Shadyside is one of the more affluent neighborhoods in the city of Pittsburgh. In Shadyside West, it has some of the most beautiful houses you can find in the entire city of Pittsburgh. Pierce Street is more on the eastern side of Shadyside, and it is quite different from the rest of Shadyside.
Yeah.
So that's kind of the beginning of that.
All right, so what I want to do is give a quick overview of where we'll be talking about the area of Shadyside.
By the way, you have maps which you might be able to follow along.
Yeah, back when we were younger, Pierce Street was known as Dodge City. But here's the 5800 block right here. These yellow marks are just lot numbers. And here's the, now this was what was owned by Carnegie, or not Carnegie, Mellon, Edward Mellon. This is the 5700 block, and it was not owned by Mellon. There's College Avenue, Maryland, Summerlin. Train tracks separate East Liberty from Shadyside. There's Nagley, let's see, Tayway. This is a little alley that goes between the southern side of Pierce Street and Ellsworth. And it goes, upper Tayway goes up this way. I think it's pretty good. You got that?
So we're going to talk about this, kind of going through it chronologically. First, we'll talk about how things were before Pierce Street was built, and then when it was built, up to about 1920, when it was owned by one person, Andrew Mellon. Then we'll talk about kind of between 1920 and 1960, where there was a lot of immigration to America and a lot of immigrants coming to Pierce Street, as well as what we call the Great Migration, a lot of African Americans coming up from the south to the north. And so Pierce Street kind of got peopled after Mellon sold it in those years by a diverse group of people. The Butlers Club is a special topic, which they were around from 1929 really to about 1945 or so. We'll talk about that, and we'll talk about there's a lot of racism involved here, racial discrimination, redlining, and then in the 1960s up to about 2000 there was speculation. There might have been some blockbusting going on. Absentee landlords, people would own the houses and not live there. As Dave said, it was called Dodge City for a while. It was a rough area. Kids went to Liberty School that did not live on Pierce Street usually did not come down to Pierce Street because it was scary. But I had to come down there because I lived there. So anyway, then we had these Section 236 and Section 8, which are two programs to do affordable housing, which played a central role in the population of Pierce Street at that time. And then we'll talk about from the 2000s up to now. I would call it gentrification and how it is today, which to me is a little sad. I miss a lot of what used to be there. And so we're going to end with kind of childhood memories of Pierce Street, which will resonate with some of you who are here tonight. So I want to think about what is history. And history is not just big events. It's a lot of little events, a lot of little things that happen to individual lives that are living in these kind of large structures, whether they're social or physical, economic. And there were about probably over 10,000 people that lived on Pierce Street over these 135 years of its existence. And each one of those had an experience. And was that history? I think it is. It's personal history for every one of them. So here's an example. 1896. A girl who was 14 years old named Sadie Jelly, Jelly, sold enough subscriptions to the Pittsburgh Press to get a free bicycle. And she was listed there on the left, that yellow mark there down lower. And she wrote a thank you for the bicycle to the Pittsburgh Press. She went out to Wall Station, which is a railroad station east of Pittsburgh. And I guess the clerks there felt like they wanted to help her, and they bought all these subscriptions. And she got a bicycle. And she was so happy she wrote this letter of thanking them. And just as a follow-up, she got married a few years later. So is that history? To me, that's the interesting stuff. Anybody named Sadie Jelly has got to make an appearance. So this is a kind of idiosyncratic presentation. I try to hit the main points that people would hit, but stuff that, as you research stuff like this, whether it's in the census or whether it's in the newspapers of the time, you're going to find really odd and interesting stuff, and I tried to put some of that in here. There's no limit to the amount you can put in, so I try to keep it to within the time we have. In the beginning.
Robbie,
Okay. Yeah.
talk into the mic.
In the beginning. Sorry,
Someone
this
demands
is
payment with a gift card. It's a
Okay, sorry, that was a commercial.
From the beginning. Well, in the beginning, there was no life. The earth was forming. Boom! The earth shivered from earthquakes. Mountains forming. Oceans boiling. All's quiet. A little pool of water forms. In that pool, 2 tiny amoeba. The start of life. No, that's too far back.
Okay, that maybe was too far back. So, let's move up a little bit here. We're going to talk about the setting, the geography, the geology, the topography, as well as the history. Going from forests to farms, then the coming of the railroads and the streetcars, and how the city changed in character, and there was a lot more expansion to the east side, which is where we are. So this is the first known photograph of the area we are known as Pierce Street. It's about 300 million years ago. You guys know this, right? This is in the museum. And I always, growing up, I saw this, it's like, that's what it was like. So, anyway, under Pierce Street now, under most of Pittsburgh and Allegheny County, are these rocks. These are sedimentary rocks which were laid down 300 million years ago in the Carboniferous period. And that's what's under Pierce Street. So I'm still with those creatures. Before settlers came to America, it was all forest. You probably heard that. Between the Atlantic Ocean and the Mississippi, a squirrel could walk from tree to tree without touching the ground. It was thick forest. About a quarter of the trees, I believe, were chestnut trees, which are very hard to find nowadays. And that's what was here for all those millennia. And there were Native Americans. It wasn't an empty land. There were people here. Seneca was the main tribe that lived here in recent times, but the Lenape and the Shawnee, who were pushed from further east, came into the area when white settlers started coming here.
Okay, so in 1784, this is Pittsburgh. In 1784, you see the 2 rivers going down there. And Pittsburgh came up to about a little bit past, just to the end of the Hill District. Beyond that was forests or farms. And still, Native Americans lived out there. This population was about 376, I believe, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yep.
All right, and here is a population of Pittsburgh by decade. And the interesting thing here is it increases every decade until 1980. And that's when the population starts to decrease.
I used to say that Pierce Street's population, I still say this, now is the same as it was in 1880. That's kind of mind-boggling if you think about it. So it was about more than double that at one
Yeah.
point, and it's been going downhill.
Now, this map is from 1855, and trains had started to come into the city and trolleys. And you see the infrastructure is built up much more in this picture. And here is the first train coming in from Philly and stopping at the East Liberty Station. This is a pretty famous picture. And they said in that group is a young Andrew Carnegie. And here are the trolleys that, before electricity, would take people back and forth. And this one on the side of it, it says East Liberty. And if it's coming from town, that's a long trip on horses. All right, so this is 1872. It's still 20 years before Andrew Mellon would purchase the street. And this is where the street will be, right in there. And I want you to notice this creek. It goes right down the center of the street. And Robbie's house is right there where it
I'll try to tell him. Robbie.
We figured that out. You also have Root Street Station right here. That's the stop for the train. And also farther down was Amberson. Amberson Street had a station. And this was interesting. A nice pond at the corner of Graham and Center Avenue. This is where Market District is. So that's the ice pond. And Liberty School, of course, right there.
We were told that we better speak right into the microphone, so sorry about that. Up till now, if you couldn't hear us, and if you're listening to us as a live stream, you can't hear us, we'll try to talk in the microphone.
Into the microphone.
Yeah.
Right here, yeah.
I gotta move.
Well, pick up the mic and carry it with you.
Do one of these, you know.
Okay, all right. All right, and again, here's Root Street Station. This is taken in probably the 1920s. Root Street was really there long before these houses back here were. This is the 5700 block of Pierce Street that you're seeing in the background. And you see those are pretty nice houses, they're pretty big. But again, this is a later photo. Again, up above is the Root Street Station again, and you see a better picture of the 5700 block houses. Pretty big houses. And down here on the map, there's the 5600 block, or 5700 block, I'm sorry. And over here, we have the ice house. And I'm figuring the ice house is there because the ice pond was over there. And Abira Ali, Robbie's sister, told a story of her mom and her best friend Mary Lee would walk over to the ice house and bring ice back to put in the refrigerators.
And then I asked Ethel about that, who was the other friend who grew up with them. And she said, no, she didn't do that. The truck would come to her house and they would put the ice in the ice box and they would give ice chips to the kids.
All right, let me get up here. So this is an article from the Pennsylvania Historic Magazine talking about the increase in population in the East End because of transportation, because of the trolleys and the trains. And in 1852, when trains and trolleys were introduced, there were 8,000 people in the East End. By 1916, there were 160,000 people in the East End.
So this is 1871. This is the 5800 block of Pierce Street as it was laid out before Mellon bought it. And it's separated into lots. There's no buildings yet, but there are only 24 lots on the north side and 18 on the south. So when Mellon bought it and put up those row houses, which were with party walls, he was able to get 30 houses instead of 24 onto that block, on that side.
There he is.
There he is. He was a good-looking young guy. And then he was a distinguished-looking older fellow. This is a biography written by David Kennedy, which is very, very thick. And he was able to get a lot of good information because he got access to the archives, including Mellon's letters and so on. I tried to get that, and they said, no, we're not doing that anymore. So he was the son of Thomas Mellon, who was a banker. He was Richard's brother. They went into business in real estate together, and they were doing banking. And his family also built Kennywood as a destination for their railroads. So he bought the 5800 block, that piece of land, and on my sister's house, 5859, as well as 5801, it says College Place, but that was never a name that was actually used on any maps or anything. It just says College Place. And so why did he build them? Well, you can imagine why. You have a railroad station right down the street, and you have all these mansions that need servants. So you've got a good place to put low-income housing, which is what it was. Why it was rentals? I don't know. Maybe he just wanted more control over who lived there. And it was originally called Parker Street, but when Pittsburgh annexed Allegheny, they already had a Parker Street. So they changed it to Pierce Street. So as George mentioned, I applied for a historic landmark status for the street, and we got it. But what I wrote, I think, is kind of what we're saying about history. It's not all mansions and big structures. It's also thinking about how the working poor lived for all these years.
All right, this is a picture of Summerlin Street if you were on Ellsworth Avenue, looking north towards the railroad tracks, or down to the beginning of Pierce Street. This was around 1900. You can tell because they're paving, they're putting pipes in, and they're putting in electric lines. Oh, I'm sorry. I should have talked into that next time. Okay, and here you're on the corner of, in the intersection of Maryland and Parker Street, because this is 1900. This isn't Pierce Street yet. And this is the 5700 block of Parker Street, looking towards Summerlin Street at this time. Look at those houses. They're pretty big houses, freestanding. Okay, and here we're going to talk a little bit about sewage. Right over here, right here is where Pierce Street is. And you see this red line here goes behind the southern section houses of Pierce Street. So they have a sewage line. But on the north side, over by the tracks, there's nothing. And that was like 1891. Now, in 1899, they put this extension in. So we're thinking that between 1891 and 1899, the north side of Pierce Street must have had outhouses. It's the only thing I can figure. And again, there's a sewer line being put in, and you see the rock formations that Robbie was talking about. And here's the trail of sewage. It goes from Pierce Street through Bloomfield, under the Bloomfield Bridge, to the Iron City Brewery, and into the Allegheny.
And I have walked that.
We are meticulous.
I have walked that, and you see the culvert where it comes out into the river right there. It's still there.
All right, and this is another, every house on Pierce Street had a coal chute. That's that blue thing you see on the wall there. Now, in my day, I've never seen them used, but we were able to open them sometimes. Some you couldn't open, some you could open and play in, but there, in other pictures that you'll see tonight, you'll see coal chutes, because that's what they had. There you go.
Now we're going to we're going to start going through the census from 1890 really until 1920. In 1890, anybody know what happened to the census? It burned in a fire, right? Okay? It burned down in a fire, and there was very, very few pieces of data left. It didn't matter for Pierce Street though, because it was not quite built yet. But by 1900, we know who was living where. And all these houses in the 5800 block were rentals, all renting to Mellon, paying rent to Mellon. And this just gives you a sort of, if you can imagine what society was like back then, 1900, these are some of the occupations that people had. On the left are some typical ones a person might have now: druggist, nurse, dentist, attorney, baker, grocer, photographer, etc. But on the right, some stuff you don't see too much: shirt maker, harness maker, draftsman, photo engraver, iron molder, railroad conductor, driver for a yeast company, shoemaker, riverboat pilot, paper hanger for wallpaper, blacksmith, coachman. Interesting. Here's a couple of particular residents I thought would be fun to talk about. William Grant was 72 years old in 1900, and he lived at 5804 Pierce Street. He was born in Scotland in 1827. William Hoffman was born in Bulgaria in 1861, and he was a fresco painter. Frescoes. A lot of talent. Lived at 5812. And Mary Schmidt had 13 children. Only 7 were living. Infant mortality was very high in that time. The sanitation was really poor. There was typhoid and other diseases. So this was not uncommon. Now, Mary Berry holds a special place in Pierce Street history. In the 1900 census, Mary Berry was white. But in 1910, she was not white. She was mulatto. And she had boarders who were mulatto. And the same was true in 1920. Mary Berry was a nurse. She was a widow. And what happened was in 1900, they didn't have a category for mulatto. And they had one in 1910 and 1920, but after that they stopped that too. So this is just a kind of artifact of the way the census was taken. But she is the first black person on Pierce Street and she brought in boarders who were also mulatto, and you'll see coming up how that population shifted, especially in the 5700 block.
All right, this is an article I thought was interesting. And it has to do with an accident. It seems like L.W. Lowry of 5806 Pierce Street, he witnessed a pedestrian being struck by a car on Grant and 7th. So he got out of his car to help the driver put the pedestrian in the back seat of his car, and Lowry told the guy to take him to the police station that was just a block away. The guy went the other direction and disappeared. So for 3 days in the Pittsburgh press, they would give you updates on how the police are doing trying to find this guy. And on the 3rd day, they found him. And the driver of the car was a doctor himself. Took the man home, made sure he was okay, and sent him on his way. Now the reason I bring this up is because this L.W. Lowry, I think it's related to our host, Patricia Lowry.
Great-grandfather.
Oh, okay, all right. Very good.
And that's my grandfather.
So
Okay,
there-
who do you think this is? Oh, yeah. And you know what? Warren G. Harding, in 1920 asked Andrew Mellon, if he would like to be the Secretary of the Treasury. And what do you think Mellon said?
Yes.
Yeah, he did. He said yes.
Okay, so when Mellon became Secretary of the Treasury, he liquidated a lot of his businesses in Pittsburgh, and he sold a lot of his real estate, including Pierce Street. And he sold it, all the 60 houses, for $120,000 to a man named Cunningham. It was the largest single sale of any group of houses ever in Pittsburgh.
Up to that time.
Up to that time. And Cunningham was just trying to get his money, and he put an ad out in the press that you could buy your house. Because up to that time, all the houses were owned by Mellon, and he wasn't selling. Now all of a sudden, you've got 60 houses up for sale. This is 1920. A lot of people wanted houses. There's a shortage of houses. So he put this ad out, and in 3 months, they were all sold. So you're buying a house in Shadyside, as it points out there in the ad. This is an amazing newspaper ad. For $3,500 or $5,000. Brick houses, gas, electric, light, near schools, stores, theaters, paved road. You know, it sounded really good, and it was. It was a good deal. So here's a huge demographic shift. Before that sale, when Mellon owned the houses, 56 houses, only 14 were not born in America. And of those not born in America, 4 were from Ireland, 3 from Scotland, 3 from England, and only 1 each from these other countries. After the sale, you have the same 56 houses. Now you have 44 foreign-born residents, 19 of them from Russia, 5 from Germany, 3 from these other countries, and 2 and 1. A lot of Jewish people, and a lot of Italians and Eastern Europeans. So this is a map of everybody's name who owned their house in 1923. It's hard to read it, but you'll see it says at the top, E.J. White et al. That's the area behind the houses. Okay, and here are some of the names of the people who bought the houses. Those would be the same names that were on that map. Names like Eichenlaub and Trevino and Mansoros and Petropoulos and Karoudis and Finkelstein and Pavlov. So these aren't Anglo-Saxons, okay? And 5816, I point out, was Greco. That was bought directly at that time. Kate Greco, everybody knows Kate's store, 5901 Ellsworth. That's where she's from. Okay, that was her father that bought that house. Let me just say one other thing about that. I'll say more maybe, but her brother is the guy that painted the signs at Kennywood. Have to be this tall, howdy doody. That was her brother. So this is the map you have, and that pink kind of wedge at the top over the houses is. I pointed it out, it was a lot, but now it's a building. It's a garage. And it was sold, 5 guys bought it, and they sold it to a cab company. And they used it as a cab garage. Later, they used it as the Bell Telephone garage. That's how we knew it.
Okay, now I want to talk a little bit about segregation. In Pittsburgh...
Mike.
Oh, I got to go to the mic. Okay, so in Pittsburgh...
Mike.
in Pittsburgh, like every other city, there were only specific areas where black families could move to. And some areas were bigger than others. In Shadyside, there was designated for black families, one block on Copeland Street and the 5700 block up Pierce Street. And in the early 1930s, redlining became a discrimination practice, allowing banks and mortgage lenders to outline specific areas of high risk for loans, and they were usually areas of minority population. That was redlining. And and you can see on this map, the red areas are the areas that were at high risk, and yellow and blue were much better. Okay, now in 1929, you started to hear talk about the Butler's Club. And it was right there on the corner of Maryland and Pierce. And it was, let me put this here again. Let me do this real quick. Okay, let me hit this again. And hit this again. There we go. Now, V. Thornton, the man on your left, he owned the house that was the Butler's Club at 500 Maryland Avenue. And the guy next to him, Joseph Gould, he was the president of the association. And he was also the butler for M.L. Beneville, who lived up in Craystone, up at Chatham College. He helped fund the Butler's Club for when it opened. And now, they did actually do some butlering there. I mean, they had programs to improve your skills and things like that, but really it was a mutual aid organization where the groups could go and discuss politics, unionizing, workers' rights, and have social events. They also had programs for helping people find jobs and giving out small loans. So they were a very active group. And now here, this is showing you the 5700 block again, only now picture it all paved. Because this is a 1900 picture, it's really 1930 now. And you see how nice these houses are. That they have big porches, they have front yards, they have backyards, they have nice sidewalks. And right here on your far left, that's the Butler's Club. That would be there. Now, on this street, on this part of the street, let me grab my other notes. Right here at this intersection, it was like segregation hitting the 5700 block, the black community right in the face, because the 5800 block was completely white, and the 5700 block was well on its way to be completely black. But in these houses, many of these houses were families that started organizations, civic and social clubs, for the community. And here's a few of them. You can read them, the Jolly Matrons. And these articles here are talking about some events that were going on at the Butler's Club. Like they were trying to make a male quartet. They were trying to get something going there. And this is from one of the, oh yeah. That's all that practicing. Remember when you did it like that?
Well.
So at any rate, this is a woman lost her handkerchief, and one of the events that they were talking about.
Is that history? It is if you have a handkerchief. And a shoe buckle, yeah, not just a handkerchief.
And now, These were highly active and influential groups and in the black community of Pittsburgh. They focused on politics, education, and religion. And
I'll sit here.
they were very involved, and it was a very tight network down there in this community. But it wasn't only for this community. It stretched into the Hill District. They worked with, they would have their meetings in the homes and have their events at the Butler's Club, or maybe somewhere like the Penn Shady Hotel, like a bigger venue if they needed it. All right?
Is it still there? 500 Maryland?
You'll see.
You'll see. Now here's some pictures of inside the Butler's Club.
These are
During that
by
time.
Teeny Harris.
Yeah. Some more. It's beautiful.
Okay, I'll just talk about this.
Yes.
I found this today.
That's why I'm not talking.
Lionel Hampton, everybody's heard of him. He came to the Butler's Club, and it was a big deal. And Lionel Hampton was one of the first black Benny Goodman's orchestra, and he gave Benny Goodman credit for that in this picture. Now we're back to things about the Butler's Club. Let me just say, Norman Bryce, who's here tonight, knew Mr. Thornton, and Mr. Thornton's family had a farm out by Aiken or something, and Mr. Thornton used to help the kids around the neighborhood to fix their stuff, because he was kind of a good handyman besides being a butler. So he was a really nice guy, and it was his house that was the Butler's Club.
All right, and here we have a couple of articles from the Butler's Club. Like this one talks about an event they were having, a discussion they were having. Yeah, this is about a discussion they were having about politics, as a matter of fact. And the one over here is a letter from Governor Ritchie of Maryland to the Butler's Club, thanking them for sending him a letter, thanking him for his due diligence in apprehending the group of people that lynched a man in Maryland.
The last lynching in Maryland, 1929. Okay, we're just going to go through some census numbers here. Very simple. So the 5700 block of Pierce Street in 1900, the light gray shows there were all white and no black. By 1950, it was all black and no white. Even by 1940, you can see one's going up, the other one's going down over that period of 60 years, really. Now let's look at the 5800 block of Pierce Street. No blacks at all for the entire time, from 1900 to 1950. So now we'll talk about the 1930s. Bill Patterson gave me a few pictures that his family had. I don't think he's here. Are you here, Bill? No. He said he might make it. Anyway, and a guy, I put this out on Facebook. I said, anybody have any stories? Ken Amiano, whose father was also Ken Amiano, said, yeah, my father has some stories. And his father was born in 1923. And he says, yes, indeed, it was black on one side, white on the other. The two smartest kids at Liberty School, which is where all the kids went from Pierce Street, were twins, and they were girls, and they were from the black section of Pierce Street. And on the white side, there were a lot of first generation immigrants, and a lot of the kids spoke no English at the time. Across the street, you may know that there's what's called the Papercraft Company, which is now condos. It was called the Eat More Chocolate Company, and you could smell chocolate from Pierce Street. There was a full-blooded Native American family living near Pierceton, Maryland, and every time they saw this woman, she was dressed in full Native American regalia. Across the street on Ellsworth, if you've known where I'm talking about, there are things that kind of look like Pierce Street. It's a row of houses like that, but they have a big, yard in front of them. It's fenced in. But those were like, you know, the deluxe Pierce Street. And the people from Pierce Street did odd jobs for those guys. There was a Pittsburgh pirate who lived there. And Katie Greco, again, we'll get back to her, was a beautiful young woman, and every boy in the neighborhood had a crush on her. That's not her.
Okay, the 1940s come roaring in. And that's my father and my mother.
Stand right.
He was in the Army and she was a whack. In 1940, this is some of the occupations in the 5700 block of Pierce Street. The ones in white are domestic workers. And the ones, the two you see in yellow are government workers, WPA. And this is the same with the 5800 block. Fewer of the white lined ones that are domestic serfs, and more of the WPA governmental workers. Okay, oh, here we go. Yeah, in 1943, things started to go bad for the Butlers Club. The city started to raid them for illegal gambling, for underage drinking. Now, the Butlers Club fought this tooth and nail. They would go to court. There were cases where now they were found guilty and they got their license suspended, but then reissued later. And there were some times when the judge would say, this is a frivolous, they would throw it right out, and the Butlers Club would win. But it never stopped. Now here we are in 1949 and they're still doing it. They're still revoking the Butlers Club's license. And they're fighting it, but they fought it until 1954. In 54, they finally closed their doors. And they left that big house at 500 Maryland Avenue empty.
Oh yeah. So this my sister Vera painted this of my mother on a bicycle, and this we think is Ethel. You think it's you, right? Well, I might argue with that. Okay. And Ethel was born in 1933, and she lived there until 1957 when she was married. And she is our contact with the 30s
Yes.
and the 40s to an extent. Here's another picture of
Railroad track.
just some kids playing on the railroad trestle. And this is my Aunt Ruthie sitting down on the ledge at the end of college. Now we get to the 1950s. This is my mother in the middle, my grandfather and grandmother, and my Aunt Ruthie. Now here's a couple neighbors. One is David Tokich when he's about 4. We don't know who the girl is, but just pay attention to the sidewalks and the cars and where the cars are parked. What do you guys think about that, you people who live on Pierce Street now? Isn't that amazing? The cars are on the street, and the sidewalk
Not on the sidewalk.
is full of space.
You'll see.
This is Ethel with my mom, and this is Ethel with my mom. My mom has Alzheimer's now, but she wrote poetry as a younger person. She wrote this in the 1950s. Far off I hear the whimpering, simpering locomotive of a tiny toy train winding its way nearer. And for some reason, Pierce Street is really associated with the trains and the train tracks. So I have 3 different, it's right next to it, like it rattles the windows when
Yes.
the train goes by. So I have 3 different poems by 3 different poets by 3 different years, all about the train.
And here's another neighbor. This is George Samosky and his dad, Mr. Samosky. That's the only way I knew him. He was a boxer, and he owned the laundromat that was up on Ellsworth. And he also had he built a bomb shelter in his basement.
Fallout shelter.
Fallout shelter. And we think it's still there because Seabrook didn't get these houses, this
No,
house did it.
not that one.
Right. So it may still be down there. This is George again playing in the back of his house. This is Tayway. This is the alley that separates Ellsworth from Pierce Street. And there's Tayway again. And here's Tayway again. Only you'll see that the sidewalk narrows, well, so do the houses. Because Tayway is running parallel to Pierce Street, but moving closer to it. So we'll see. Okay, here you go, Rob.
Okay. So the census, as everyone who does this kind of work knows, you can only get up to 1950. After that, you don't know who lived in what house. But you can get data on the blocks, on a block by block basis, how many were, let's say, what age or what age group and what race. So in the 1960 census for the 5800 block, we find out of 70 units, 8 of them were occupied by non-white, about 11 or 12%. By 1970, in that same block, it's now 70% black, and 49% are under 18. And that kind of kept going. A lot of kids, and there's been a total shift in the population. I'm not sure exactly why. I know part of it had to do with the affordable housing stuff that was going on, but it's just a major shift again in the population. And the same thing, this 1985 was a study that was done that showed pretty much the same numbers in 1970.
And then in comes the 60s. And this is a picture of the entranceway to a head shop on Ellsworth Avenue called Bag's End. And the graffiti.
Anybody ever been there?
Anybody remember it?
See? See?
Well, the graffiti on the side of it, you can see it says flower power, black power, zigzag. I can't really make out the rest of it, but that's why we put it at the 60s.
Yeah.
And now this is probably the early 60s, and this is, like Robbie was saying, black families were just coming on to the 5800 block. Well, these were kids I was able to play with. There's where's my pointer?
That way.
There's Darcy, Dee Dee, their mom, Barbara, JR. We think this is Ronnie Pascal, and we do not know who that is. But right over here is, you see there's a church pew on this porch. That's my cousin Brian's house, and I have another cousin here, John, who used to go from Liberty School to that house for lunch during the days. Am I right? That's right. That's right. Okay, then. Now you remember in 1954 the Butler Club closed. Well, for that 10 years between 54 and 64, if you were a kid on Pierce Street, you played in that house. But as the years went on and it got more dilapidated, it became a dare for some kids to go through that house. And then in 64, it caught on fire. And they tore it down. And now that building at 500 Maryland Avenue is a vacant lot. And there it is. And if you'll notice, it's a parking lot. And you notice over here, parking lot. Just remember that for future reference. Okay, now there's my cousin Brian, but that's not what this is about. This is about Oh yeah, thank you. You need to come up here. This is where Pierce Street ends in College. We played a lot of games up here because the street was much wider. You could have bases to play kickball or whatever you were playing. But in the background there's a big truck, and that building behind it is the B&L company, and they distributed sour cream, cottage cheese, different products to stores in the area. And this alley going up there is Upper Tayway, and that would take you up past the B&L, make a sharp right, and bring you out about halfway up Ellsworth Avenue.
Arcades, right.
And now this I remember, the truck bringing this merry-go-round down the street, parking it, and you paid a dime, and you got to ride the merry-go-round.
Okay, this is a long poem I'm going to skip. It's by Mo Seeger, who is a Pierce Street resident, who now lives in Paris, and he's still doing beat poetry. And if you're listening, Mo, we just didn't quite have time for this beautiful poem that you wrote.
Okay, and here's the 70s. Now, I like this picture because I just like the way the sun's hitting the street. And this is taken from Robbie's porch. And if you're looking through the houses, the porches, that green awning on the other side of that big porch right there is my house. And now I remember the city coming and asking people if they wanted trees in front of their houses. Some people said yes. My father said no because he thought it would mess up the sign. And here's a picture or a painting from a beer alley. This is Sheila and Leanna, Robbie's sisters. And is that Marla? Okay, I didn't know who that person on the bike was, but now we know it's Marla. Okay, and now 1971, we got a playground at the corner of Summerlee and Pierce Street. This was a house, but it got torn down for some reason, I'm not sure. But you could see the other house on the 5700 block there. That's a pretty nice house. It's a big house. And so we didn't have to play on the street. We still did, but. Okay, that's my niece Terry and Robbie's sister Leanna in that park. And above there, you could see the Nagley Avenue Bridge. That's another painting from a beer alley.
So, as I said before, if you lived on Pierce Street, you went to Liberty School. Who that went to Liberty School lived on Pierce Street? Pretty much, mostly African Americans. Lenore Claybrook, Ozzie Smith, Snooky, and Gary Bryce, Norman's here tonight, and me, who, like, I'm the littlest one, I'm on the right side in the front, and I was scared to death.
And same with my graduating class. Here they if you were African American, you probably lived on Pierce Street. There's Pete McGee and Ricky Weatherly, the Morrises.
Joyce.
Yeah, Joyce Nelson. Okay, then around the mid-70s, the Port Authority decided they wanted to do something with rapid transit. A busway, whatever. We weren't quite sure. But the grown-ups on Pierce Street at the time, the rumors were going. They didn't know. We were all wondering, how much are they going to give us for our house? Are they going to buy our house? Are we going to get top dollar? Or is it going to be taken from eminent domain? Or, and what kind of bus is it going to be? Is it going to be a sky bus or a monorail? What is it going to be? And so that was going on for a while. But like in this article says, that they would only be allocating maybe one or two houses that would need to go down for the busway.
And the B&L building.
Yeah, the B&L did go.
Yeah.
And so did that cab company, though.
So now we come on a dark time, the 1980s. Mostly Standard Realty started buying these houses up. He came to my grandfather, do you want to sell your house for $9,000? No. And a lot of other houses, a lot of people sold for very low prices. And then he just let them sit, and they were boarded up. And they stayed that way for 10, 15, 20 years. So there's an graduation thesis that was called The Two Worlds of Shadyside, just all about Pierce Street. Community profile, 1985. So we'll go through this very quickly. Pierce Street, 70% black, the rest of Shadyside, 7% black. Pierce Street, 45% less than 20 years old. Shadyside, 10% less than 20 years old. Pierce Street, 51% below poverty. Rest of Shadyside, 5% below poverty. Pierce Street average property value, $27,000. Rest of Shadyside, a little bit more. Did kids on Pierce Street have a safe place to play?
No.
Did they frequently play in the street?
Yes.
Were vacant lots a problem?
Yes.
Were vacant buildings a problem?
Yes.
Were rats a problem?
Oh, yeah.
Were roaches a problem?
Absolutely.
So, it says here in this article from 1985, some Pierce Street residents keep homes neat, but are hampered by nearby houses which are boarded up and dilapidated. And one person says, this is at the Shadyside Action Coalition, something's got to be done about Pierce Street. It's almost a ghetto down there.
Now, here we have a picture of the busway under construction. This was what was going to be. What it is now is this, only they're still building it here. And this would have been the area that cab company building was. They did take that away. And that's my father walking his dog. And here is the Naveley Avenue stop, right? And it's still under construction. And I don't know if you guys can tell, but there's a little hidden person there. I'll show you. Right there. That's our friend Lauren.
He'd already done. And he came to the URA, the Urban Redevelopment Authority, and he asked for money for fixing up some of these houses. And people didn't want that. The residents were afraid, it says, mistakenly, that he was going to displace them, he said. So that project never got off the ground. But he persisted. And so thanks to Dan Cohen and Talia in the URA, we got these loan papers that were actually the agreements, that some of them that he got. And so in 1993, later that year, he fixed up these 5 houses, 5805, 7, 9, 11, and 13. He got $187,000. And in return for that, he had to let low-income Section 8 people live there for 15 years. That's the agreement. 1994, similar thing. 5831, 5833, 5835, $90,000, 15 years. You have to be Section 8. 1999, 10 years. 5800, 5846, 5851. Those are to fix up the houses. You have to keep them Section 8 for that amount of time. Dan Cohen, my friend, who's here, says, I don't have any problem with the properties being renovated as long as he doesn't kick out the residents. So, time's up. The 15 years or the 10 years is up. And this little girl comes up to me, Sejoya, was Irma's friend, my niece's friend, says, they're kicking all the black people off of Pierce Street. I'm sorry, I don't want to cry here, but That's what happened. So, Pierce Street today. Go ahead.
Pierce Street today. Seabroker Standard Real Estate still owns almost all the 5800 block and part of the 5700 block, about 40 or 50 houses. And there are no African Americans in any of them.
Actually, there is one right here. 5700. Now, here's parking
Oh,
these
yeah.
days.
Yeah, this is how you park on Pierce Street now.
You have to park like that. And this is where you walk.
You walk in the street.
And I complained to the city, and I said, you know, these guys are parking on the sidewalk, and they said, we're not going to ticket them. It's just, we're not going to do it. So,
And you see all these houses look the same. You got to know an address if you're going to somebody's house. When we were growing up, Tommy Alberts lived down here with the house with the blue door. I didn't have to know his address. I didn't have to know anybody's address. I just knew what their house looked like, but you couldn't do that here. Not anymore.
Wait, so they're not rentals though, are they?
they're all rentals except for about 6. I'll talk about that in a
Yeah,
minute.
yeah.
They're all rentals.
Here again, this is going up Pierce Street.
Yep. So they're all rentals for about $2,500 a month.
Yeah.
Something like that. Yeah. And they're really nice. I have to say,
They are.
did a beautiful job. The street looks nice. And the houses are amazing inside. And they are expensive now. He just sold this one for $440,000.
My dad sold his house in '95 for 20.
My grandfather bought his in 1943 for $1,500. Here's a block party, Marlo. Here's your block party. Okay? This is Pierce Street today. We have 3 current residents besides my family who are here, which is great. Oh, you? Yeah, I forgot. You don't want to sit with your... Oh, no. Here's some more shots of the block party.
And this is at the 5700 block.
Yes, very nice garden where they had this party. So what's the future of Pierce Street? I'm hoping that Standard will continue selling them. He's selling them kind of one by one. He's getting a lot of money. At least they'll be owned by individual people, and people put more into a neighborhood, as you know.
Right.
Probably a lot of you live in neighborhoods and you own your home, and it's just a whole different thing. And here's another issue. Down the end of Pierce Street by Negley, they put an incredible, complex bus station there. Bus stop, the best bus stop in the world, you know, unbelievable.
Yeah.
But if you look at this part, you got your pointer? Okay. You see that area? They're trying to sell that, and they're trying to put apartments there. Expensive apartments. So Port Authority, in this previous article here, talked about how they should just keep some space green, which would be nice, but probably won't happen. So that may be part of the future of Pierce.
And this is the 5700 block.
Right.
And all those houses are gone on this block.
Whoops. So let's forget about all that and think about childhood memories of Pierce Street. Okay? Mr. Softy. In the 1500s, okay, Bruegel painted a painting of all the children's games of Pierce Street, or not of Pierce Street, of his hometown. Okay, and yeah, it's not that old. And we have a jigsaw puzzle of this. It's 2,000 pieces. It's not easy to do. Okay, so now we go into our list here. We have a list of all these games.
Here.
Okay, thank you.
I'll
And
point.
here's the map. Okay, so where are you gonna go first?
You name it.
Let's go to college.
Right here.
There we go. Wiffle ball, dodgeball, kickball, dodge frisbee, off the wall, and running bases in between the stores. There you have. So this is our world. This is what we knew, what we cared about anyway. This is where you could play hide and seek, freeze tag, it tag, cigarette tag, TV tag, buck, jacks, jump rope, double dutch, red light, green light. I'll get to that. Hopscotch, spin the bottle, Red Rover. You guys know that? Mother May I? And if you're me, jumping out of a second floor window for fun. I had a cape on, and there's a mattress underneath. And then I went and did it again. Okay, you had your bicycles, tricycles, big wheels, click clacks, hula hoops, all those things. Hide the belt. Down this 5700 block, Norman knows about this, basketball, and they had this, what was it called? Poison? I don't know that game. Dorothy Johnson told me about that one. Anyway, there was another thing we did, which we said, if you had a bicycle, you rode your bike.
Through the Bell Telephone Building.
Yeah, with everybody there.
This was the garage. It had an entrance here and an entrance here. And if you, on a dare, you would try to ride your bike all the way through there without a Bell Telephone man grabbing you.
Right. And Ronnie Johnson, who lived right there on 50, right there, used to ride his bike all the way up Pierce Street, ride no wheelie the whole way.
Yes.
It was
Yes,
unbelievable. So there's the Bell Telephone Building entrance. That's where the dare began. There's a Bell Telephone truck on College Avenue. So release was my favorite game. The neighborhood divides up into two teams of all the kids around, and it's basically a combination of hide and seek and it tag. And so you hide, you chase each other, you get captured, you release each other, and those were the boundaries, which was basically our world, the boundaries.
Ellsworth to Summerlee, Pierce Street, up College here, and then up Tayway and back down this way.
And you're not allowed behind it.
Anywhere you wanted.
Not allowed behind the B&L.
No, not at night anyway.
Okay, and then again, for a little kid, this is what we know of the world. If you go that way, you go to Kate's, you go to East Liberty, you go that way, you go to Liberty School, you go to Walnut Street, you go that way, you go to the Shady Side Boys Club.
That's right. That's all you need.
Here's some of the food you had.
Fruits and vegetables came down the street. I have a memory of this.
The Hucksters. The Milkman, the Ice Ball Man, Mr. Softy, the Good
Menzies,
Humor Man.
Menzies Milk, was that something?
Menzies,
Menzies.
Dairy.
Dairy, yeah.
Did you have
That-
Eddie Joe's?
Did we have?
Eddie Joe's?
Doesn't sound familiar.
Betty and Joe?
Hmm?
Betty and Joe?
Betty and Joe.
Eddie Joe's.
Eddie and Joe.
We don't know
No.
that. Jim Brown had watermelon parties.
Yes, he did.
Miss Brown had 15-cent
Sent
chicken
wings out of
wings.
her house. She deep fried them. I'd go down with a 15 cents and get 3 wings.
Miss Dee Dee sold ice balls. Yep. Here's Kate's, the outside. This is a bag I kept. 70 cents for 2 chipped ham sandwiches, 32 cents for 2 cuts of pizza, 22 cents for pop, 10 cents for candy, and 19 cents for a pie.
That's how she did it. She would add it up on the bag. And she also would let families have a bill. She had a book that, like, my family could buy things up to $50 without paying it. And then we would have to pay the bill. And so you can get it on the books, I guess. I don't know what they called that exactly. But,
Tab.
right. Running a tab, that's okay.
So these are a couple of the special discounts
Yeah, these are
available.
some of the perks of being on Pierce Street during this time. In 1958, when the papercraft caught on fire, it wasn't long after that ribbons and colored paper and stationery was everywhere on Pierce Street. And I think what happened is some of the neighbors went over to the paper craft and liberated some of the things that were over there. Now, here, the Coca-Cola company was across the tracks from Pierce Street. And I don't know what happened, but the fence was open. And kids would go into there and get cases of pop and walk up and down the street and get you a case of pop for like $2. So that was another perk. Now here, these fly eyes were sold at Bag's Inn. And somebody pilfered those also. And everybody on Pierce Street walked around with fly eyes. Now the last one is a train stopped behind Pierce Street. And a couple of people decided to open up a boxcar, and inside the boxcar were hundreds of boxes of NBA high-top basketball shoes, all the color tan. They were all tan. And they went around selling them for about $2 a pair. And there were various sizes, but now that got the police involved. They did come down and investigate, but nobody knew what was going on. I don't know what they're talking about. But if they would have looked down, they would have seen. Everybody on the street had tan NBA tennis shoes.
Okay. And so here's some more pictures of kids on Pierce Street. These are more paintings by my sister. By the way, all these paintings, or a lot of these paintings, are in that book back there. Please take a look afterwards at the table. Also, don't forget the comic books for sale. I taught kids comic book class, and they go to Liberty School, which is where we all went, and they're trying to make a buck. So they're ready to take your orders. Here's some other paintings by Abira Ali. Some kids on the street. Then this is by my brother, he said, I'm gonna make some art too.
That's right.
Not only you.
You got the fruits and vegetable vendor.
So he did
you
a
got
compilation of all the different stuff
the
that goes on.
around, yeah.
Now these are some more paintings by my sister Abira Ali. This poem is by Dorothy Johnson Claybrook. Dorothy tried to get here. She couldn't make it today. She lives in Columbus. She's married to Flannery Claybrook, and they met on Pierce Street, and they're married, and it's wonderful. And this is her poem, and these are some paintings by Abira.
Maryland and Pierce. One is a state, the other a president. A diverse neighborhood where we were the residents. The daily sound of life infused, with stories told, some new, some used. Nights of lightning bugs and music swaying. Everyone's children in the streets were playing. Time to get home when the street lights were bright, for not far behind came the stillness of night. When telling the stories of now and then, it's nice to go back to remembering.
So I'm sorry that this cut out, but we will now have one more little thing here. Okay, let me make sure that this is on.
This was a party we had for the historical landmark plaque. It was also our block party for 1991.
100 years of Pierce Street.
Yeah.
I got to get this speaker on, or the music is too quiet.
It was making it nice like it.
To use this feature, please make sure your app is running and can access the internet.
Oh, wait, that's it. I don't know.
Yeah.
You know?
They
It's
just
coming out of here this
Coming
morning.
out of there.
Oh.
put it on over there.
Yeah, put it down
It's
there.
my daughter. Okay. Okay, we'll try it here. I don't think it's gonna work too well, but it's mostly visuals anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's mostly visual.
This film was made by my brother,
The slides.
Rahim Ali.
I just took the pictures.
He put it together. Oh, it's good.
It works. Full screen. That's it.